It's Russ. Today I'm going to talk about a topic that seems divisive for some reason. I'm going to talk about color vinyl and picture discs. One I don't mind and one I think is the work of the devil, coming right up. So, two things you hear people debate about a lot in the vinyl community is color vinyl and picture discs. And color vinyl, I'm sure if you collect vinyl you know this, but I'll state it again just in case. All vinyl is color vinyl. So if you have all black records and that's all you'll ever buy, you're still buying color vinyl. Vinyl itself actually is more of a translucent type material in the state that it begins in, and then it's dyed black to make all of the records that you usually own. So for the most part, color vinyl really shouldn't be that controversial. I know that some people say that this color sounds better than that color, or there's some people that say that some splatter type vinyl ends up sounding worse than others, and it's been my experience that I just don't have that with the vinyl that I have. Now, I'm going to give you a couple examples of some color vinyl that I do own that I've never had any issues with, and I think they're kind of cool in the way that the releases that they're tied in, the color is tied in to the release, and there's a million examples like that. I'm just going to show you a couple of different ones. And I do have one color vinyl that I have an issue with, but I think it has to do with the actual pressing plant and or the manufacturer of that record. So we'll get into that in a second. One of the cool things that I think is neat in the way that some reissues have been handled, and this is just one example of many reissues that have come out since Prince unfortunately passed away early. Raven to the Joy Fantastic is one of the ones that has been reissued since he passed. I do own an original copy of it on black vinyl, but when they reissued it as part of the reissue campaign, as they've been doing with a lot of Prince records, they go ahead and put it on purple vinyl, which I think is a cool touch. I don't have any problem with any of the purple vinyl that I've picked up in the reissue series. I have the One Night Alone live set, Emancipation, Planet Earth 3121, Musicology, a lot of the ones that have been reissued in this series, and I have zero issue with noise on these pressings, or again with this one, I pulled this specifically, Raven to the Joy Fantastic, because I do own an original black pressing of it, and I can't hear any difference at all between the original that's on black vinyl and the newly reissued one since Prince passed that's on purple vinyl. So that's one example. Another one, and this is actually a Walmart exclusive, Poison's Greatest Hits, that came out about a year and a half ago or so, had never been on vinyl before. Side note, this is a fantastic album to own if for no other reason. You get 2 tracks from a Poison album that's never been released on vinyl called Crack a Smile. Fantastic Poison album, criminally underrated, should be on vinyl, but it isn't. If you pick up this Walmart exclusive of their greatest hits, you at least get 2 great tracks from that album. But this is just another example of something that I think is pretty cool. They put the record on like a bright neon yellow and a bright neon green between the 2 LPs, which I think is pretty sweet. And again, it's cool. It's a theme. It just goes along with the actual cover, which I think is pretty rad. And again, zero sound quality issues. I have original pressings on black vinyl of Open Up and Say Ah, and Look What the Cat Dragged In, and Flesh and Blood. And all of the tracks sound exactly the same for me, which is great, because there's a track Stand that's on here, then I don't have an original pressing of the album Native Tongue, so I was glad that everything on these sounds as good as my original pressings of the others, so I could get that song and the 2 from Crack a Smile and not have any audio issues whatsoever. Now I will show you the one problem that I've ever had with color vinyl, and I just came across this problem again recently with the same manufacturer and the same pressing plant, and that is, for some reason, I have bad luck with white vinyl from Third Man Records. Now, this is a special edition of Jack White's Lazaretto album that was part of a Vault package, and most Vault members received this pressing a week or 2 before the actual Lazaretto album came out. The actual regular pressing of Lazaretto is on black vinyl, and there's a lot of trickery to do with it. It's got a hologram on the dead wax. It plays from the inside out on one side. There's a ton of things. There's a million YouTube videos about all the differences on the Lazaretto pressings. This one here, they did a black and white version of the cover art and a completely different back cover art, but that's not where the uniqueness stops. They also put it on half white and half blue vinyl. Now, for whatever reason, I have always had a problem with white vinyl from Third Man Records, who presses some of their records at United Pressing in Tennessee, which this one definitely was at that time. Some come out of their pressing plant that's now here in Detroit, and a lot of them still come out of United Pressing. I don't know if it's their pressing plant. I don't know if it's the quality of white vinyl that they use, but literally the white half of this album on both sides is just unbelievably noisy and a little bit distorted in the actual grooves. And it quite literally, when I play this pressing, it sounds clean, and then you have problems, and clean, and you have problems as it's rotating every single time. And it's a little bit of a bother to me. I recently did a review video and unboxing of, at the time of this video shooting, the latest Vault package, which was Jack White live at the Masonic Temple in Detroit. And one of the records was white in that set. And again, very, very noisy for some reason, distorted in parts. I know there's a lot of opinions about that set overall, but specifically the white album in that set gives me all sorts of problems for some reason. So I have many other white pressings. I have an original pressing of Amorica by the Black Crowes that's on white vinyl that sounds fantastic. I have the reissue of that same album that's on black vinyl, and the white vinyl sounds just as good. So for some reason, it's something to do with either United Pressing or Third Man and their particular quality of white vinyl that they use. Now, I'm going to talk just real quick about picture discs. Picture discs are an entire different animal, in my opinion. Many times they're not even remotely made out of vinyl. They're more of a plasticky substance, and they are completely different from what you get as far as the quality of vinyl or substance that's used to press the record. I personally have had little to no luck with picture discs ever sounding good at all. I find a lot of pops, clicks, distortion, extreme noise on the surface. I am not a fan of picture discs at all. The only time I will ever even consider owning a picture disc is if it's an absolute necessity, if the album is not available in any other way, shape, or form. Then sometimes I will settle for a picture disc. I have in the past with some 7-inch records where I couldn't get a song anywhere else but maybe a record store did a picture disc or something along those lines. Having said that, I will show you the only 12-inch picture disc that I own is one of my all-time favorite albums. It is Roger Waters' Amused to Death, and this is actually on a double picture disc, which is in a cool gatefold, like a plastic type gatefold. Now this I didn't do inner sleeves on, like static free inner sleeves like I usually do, because I never plan to play this again. I am a collector of Roger Waters and Pink Floyd, so I very much wanted this as part of my collection just because I love this album as a whole. I have Analog Productions remaster of this, and that sounds immense. And this is one of those instances where I own this just because I'm a huge fan of the album itself, and I do think this is rather unique in that it's got the cover art spread across the two LPs and the gatefold. But by and large, I am just not a fan of picture discs. I'm open to the discussion, though. I always tell you, please make sure to like the video and make sure you subscribe to the channel. But what's more important to us here is the discussion. Have there been advances in picture discs that I'm not aware of, or is there maybe new technology where they're doing things to improve the sound of the picture disc? Because I know a lot of people like them for the aesthetic, but I never really heard anybody make a case for good sound quality from a picture disc. But I'm more than open to that changing and me eventually coming over to the side and liking picture discs if I can be convinced that eventually they're going to sound just as good as a regular pressing. So that's a little bit of detail about some color pressings and my thoughts on picture discs. Like I say, please make sure to drop a comment below. Let me know what you think on color pressings, if you've had no problem with them, or if you have some trouble ones like I mentioned, or picture discs. Maybe you've had a run of good ones. Make sure to leave that comment. But most of all, thanks for watching.